You're living in an environment that has this feature. The feature is that you feel separate, can't remember who you are, and you go about your lives pretending or believing that this illusion of separation is real. Well, it's how you feel, it's how you interact, it's the only perspective that you really know. To come out of this perspective, you'll have to take a leap of faith. You'll have to go on a journey of discovery. You'll have to act on inspiration. You'll have to process beliefs that are not true. And you'll have to endeavor to see the truth. The truth is oneness. As you exist in this third density, you come in at the lower levels that are thicker and harder and more difficult, and nothing really is happening down there. And as you see yourself from a higher perspective, day by day, being moved along by the intentions you set prior to your birth, which were very powerful, noticing how you feel at every moment, and endeavoring to move towards that which is exciting to you or interesting to you. You have to realize that all of your past decisions and choices and actions were based in a perspective that was bound by this illusion. All your friends and family, everyone who was part of your life as you were growing up, as you were younger in age, was also part of this illusion. Everything you've ever been taught by anyone who's ever taught you anything was operating within this illusion. The false premise is that this illusion is true, that you are separate, that you're on your own, that you're an individual, and that you'll have to move along as best you can to make do within the societal structure that you find yourself in, wherever that may be. But as you find this information, as you get interested in certain things, as you find your passions and interests, as you have experiences, you shift that perspective little by little by little. But yet you're still quite involved in this illusion of separation. And you don't have any idea who you truly are. And you don't really realize how your decisions, choices, and actions are being made. They're being made because within the density that you exist in, you have access to a limited amount of information, a limited series of choices or selection of choices before you. The actions that you take are the only actions you could take based in that perspective, based in that density. As you rise up in density, you notice something. You notice that you will feel better, but you'll get used to that feeling very quickly. You're all emotionally sensitive. Whether you're on this call now or listening at a later date, you could not be listening to this information if you did not come in with the superpower of emotional sensitivity. You may not realize that because all you've ever felt is how you feel. You may not realize that you are quite emotionally sensitive compared to the next person because you cannot understand what they're feeling, what they're thinking, what they believe. You can't understand their perspective. You have no idea what their intentions are or where they exist in density. But as you do the work to process your own limiting beliefs, to raise your own perspective, to move into higher densities, you get one thing, and this one thing is what you truly want. It's clarity. You begin to see how this system is working. You begin to notice how others are in different states of being than you are, how they are being led by this illusion, how they are making choices, decisions, and actions based in their perspective of themselves, how they are reacting and receiving urges to change conditions or control conditions, and how they're doing this, how they're living in fear and perceiving they need to protect themselves, how they are restricting the amount of love that they can feel and the amount of satisfaction that they enjoy in life. Well, this is all part of the process. You are all on the leading edge of thought. You have, all of you have great experience. All of you have done this many times before. You could not be here now at this time and place in this reality if you weren't prepared to be here, if you weren't experienced enough. Where you are all now, you must see yourself from this higher perspective and realize it's just going to get higher and higher and higher. The choices and actions and decisions that you have in front of yourself right now are compatible with the density that you exist in. The thoughts you are thinking are attracted based on the vibration you're offering. Well, that vibration does one thing. It moves you to the level of density. And in that level of density, you have certain choices, decisions, and actions and information available to you. You can have one thing and one thing only as far as free will goes. You have the free will to choose your perspective. But if you don't understand how the system works, how are you going to choose a perspective? If you were trained to believe that you are an individual having to fend for yourself, abiding by societal norms, taboos, mores, with other people commenting on every single thing that you're doing, how are you supposed to see yourself as more? Well, this is a great question. It is unlikely that those around you will agree with you as you shift your perspective. And in this illusion of separation, you might actually feel a bit more separated from them. But this is where compassion comes in. When you understand two things. One, they are here to experience whatever they chose to experience from a non-physical position with great wisdom and careful planning. And two, they came into your life for a reason. It's no accident that anyone in your life is there. They've all agreed to be there. Why? To support you in your massive shift in perspective and to bear witness to that shift in perspective, which will enable them, if they choose to take a similar trip or to think differently or to get interested in what you're interested in. None of the people in your life are there by accident. Every single one of them is there to support you as agreed to in the non-physical, in part of this planning process. Now, we understand it's difficult for you to imagine how this all takes place all at the same time, with some coming in years before you and some coming in years later, some leaving before you and some staying on later than you. All of this will be resolved when you return to the non-physical. You'll understand it completely. But for now, the only thing you can do is just imagine it. Use the power of your imagination to imagine yourself from higher and higher and higher perspectives. In that imagining of yourself, in that picturing of yourself in a higher perspective, what do you think you would do? When you realize that you planned this very carefully and that your primary goal was to move out of this illusion into the truth, into these higher densities, feeling good, feeling better, perceiving reality accurately, imagine how you would do that. Would you do it by separating yourself from others? Or would you do it by connecting more deeply? Would you do it by defending yourself and protecting yourself and shying away from any possible encounter or experience that could bring up the rejection or the possibility of rejection from others? Would you even care about that if you knew who you truly were? If you knew who they were? If you knew how this game was being played? You would not care about any of it. You would do what you came to do. Nothing would stop you. You would be unwavering in your movement towards higher and higher densities. You would realize you're not just doing it for yourself. You're doing it for them, for everyone in the non-physical, for Source itself. This is who you truly are. And if you can see it, if you can imagine it, if you can start living it, you'll be brought to greater and greater heights in perspective. From those higher perspectives, you will access more information. You'll understand more of what we're saying. It'll be clear to you. You'll know exactly what you need to do for you. You will not look outside of yourself to experts or anyone else, including us, for any answers. You will then begin to realize how you serve. You serve by whatever you're inspired to do and by your willingness to brave the new frontier and see yourself from a higher perspective in every area of your life. Some of your areas of your life are working well. You're in joy in those areas. You're feeling satisfaction in those areas. Some aren't working so well. You might say, well, that's just the way it is, or that's just a product of my current conditions or it will change in the future, but you're not receiving and you're not acting on inspiration. If you get confused in a area of your life that isn't working well, you can know one thing for sure. You are perceiving yourself from a limited perspective, well within the illusion of separation. That's all that's happening. If you ever feel negative emotion, you are perceiving yourself well within the illusion of separation as a victim, perceiving that outside conditions can make you feel something. As the creator of your reality, you're here to create a pathway to higher and higher perspectives, to have a massive shift in perspective in one lifetime. This is your primary intention. You intended to experience this life in joy. Joy refers to a higher perspective. You cannot experience anything other than joy from a high perspective. You cannot experience anything other than misery and sorrow and dissatisfaction from a limited perspective. Therefore, simply by intending to experience this life in joy, you intended to experience it from a higher perspective. And you brought with you everything in the toolbox that would enable you to move from a limited perspective, which you chose to come in at, to a much higher perspective. You already have it all. But when you're perceiving that if you get this done, if you achieve this thing from a limited perspective, you're working in the illusion, because you will not feel the satisfaction that you will feel when you actually make your way to higher perspectives, to lighter, easier, faster densities. This is what you wanted to do. This is why you're here. And this is why you have brought us along, because we are here to enable you to see it for yourself, little by little by little over the years. You're all doing remarkable. You're all having massive shifts in perspective for wherever you are. And we are here to cheer you on and convince you to keep on moving. And with that, we'd like to talk to you about anything you'd like to talk about. Who'd like to start?